Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We're here to discuss the next generation of energy management. My name is Craig Van Pelt, and I'm the Director of Knowledge Communities here at CoreNet Global. CoreNet Global is the world's leading association for corporate real estate professionals and workplace professionals, service providers, and economic developers. We have over 8,500 members worldwide, and we're here today to discuss a recent collaboration between CoreNet Global and Rocky Mountain Institute, with the goal to provide a set of strategic solutions that provide the motivation and direction for corporate real estate professionals can use to achieve the highest goals practical and profitable for building energy performance. The efforts of this research has led to our upcoming report on the subject that will be released later this month and be presented at our Washington, D.C. Summit, Global Summit, that will be held October 27th through the 29th. The findings of this report is to be held Monday, October 27th at 11:30. So this report really based on third-party research and 14 key industry experts that provide strategic solutions. We're lucky enough today to be joined by Mike Bendewald. Mike was the principal author of this report and was the guiding influence of the interviews that are essential part of this report. We also have two other key industry experts that were interviewed for this report. The first is Ron Herbst, who's the Energy and Sustainability Product Manager for Deutsche Bank, and John Schinter, who's the AVP of Energy and Smart Buildings with AT&T. So I will let each of them kind of go into a little bit more detail of their background. So do you want to start, Mike?
Thanks a lot, Craig. I'm happy to begin. I'm Mike Bendewald. I'm with Rocky Mountain Institute. I lead our initiative called Deep Retrofit Value, which has the goal to enable real estate decision makers in both corporate real estate and commercial real estate to take a more holistic approach to valuing sustainability and energy efficiency. I've been at RMI for about 6 years at this point. I'll turn it over to Ron to introduce himself.
Hi, Ron Herbst. My current title is Product Manager of Energy and Sustainability. I work inside of Asset Wealth and Management on the real estate investment platform. Prior to my current job, I was Global Head of Energy and Sustainability for Deutsche Bank, so I oversaw all the external reporting around environmental performance and ran the eco-operations services inside the bank, so focused on improving our energy, water, carbon, waste, and paper footprint, and then driving our Green Build program.
Great, thanks, Ron. John, do you want to give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, hi, I'm John Schinter. I'm AVP of Global Energy for AT&T as well as Smart Buildings. And I've been doing this. In fact, Ron and I were colleagues, if you will. Ron was heading up the programs globally for CBRE, and prior to coming to AT&T, I was heading up the global programs for sustainability with Jones Lang LaSalle. And we've got a very good relationship right now with the Rocky Mountain Institute. Have been doing all aspects of sustainability. In fact, we've been doing a lot of work in the water space, but clearly we've spent a lot of time in making sure that we are reducing our energy footprint, optimizing rates, deploying renewable alternative strategies, and all facets of energy management. And RMI has turned out to be a very good partner to help us advance in this area.
Great, thanks, John. And we would agree here at CoreNet Global, we're very happy to be working with RMI. In fact, if I can just give a little color to our history with RMI. We first collaborated with them back in 2007 when we released this report entitled The Energy Challenge, which is a new agenda for corporate real estate. It looked at some of the challenges and obstacles of energy management from the perspective of both the end user and the service provider. And then fast forward a couple of years to 2013, CoreNet Global established our advocacy focus group, which is the first time we really identified and assessed various public policy issues and corporate practices that impact the corporate real estate world. And the first issue that they took on was energy management. And it was really directly derived from this 2007 report that we worked on with Rocky Mountain Institute. And that within that this first advocacy statement that we put together, the position really was to encourage our members to drive efficiency to levels that are optimal with net zero buildings as a top priority for long-term success. So we are really true believers in this initiative. And really that whole advocacy paper really built on this 2007 report. So again, if we fast forward to this year, we re-engaged with Rocky Mountain Institute, and earlier this year we produced a report that builds on this 2007 report, but now it helps to develop a roadmap for the next level of energy management, and it identified several drivers in that process. And what we're here to talk about today is the phase 2 of that report, and we'll talk about some of the solutions for the next generation of energy management. So with that, I will hand it over to Mike, and he can build on that.
Okay, thanks so much, Craig. I just have to say we are very excited to partner with CoreNet Global again on the topic of energy management and corporate real estate. As you all may know, buildings represent the largest single share of global energy use, and the world's major companies own and occupy many of these buildings. As the world's leading association for corporate real estate professionals who are responsible for these buildings, CoreNet and its members are in the perfect position to create impact. CoreNet Global's leadership and advocacy for net zero buildings, as Craig mentioned, is really a powerful first step. We hope that our work together on next generation solutions, as we are doing with this current paper and outreach, will motivate and enable continued progress against global challenges created by energy use that we see regarding national security, the economy, the environment, and public health. Let me take a moment to describe the size of the investment opportunity the current state of the world's major companies. Buildings are one of the world's largest opportunities for profitable, clean energy investment. The global market for efficiency in buildings is $87 billion per year today, with the vast majority of that located in US, China, France, Germany, and the UK. New investment in renewable energy reached over $200 billion in 2013, with nearly half going into solar PV, of which an increasing amount is being placed directly on building rooftops. The investment opportunity for energy efficiency and renewable energy is only expected to grow. By 2020, the global buildings efficiency market has the potential to reach $245 billion per year, which is really almost a threefold increase from today's level. For-profit companies make up a large part of this investment in energy efficiency and renewables, and many are committed to expanding their investment. 59% of the Fortune 100 and nearly 2/3 of the Global 100 have set greenhouse gas emissions targets, renewable energy commitments, or both. Apple, Procter & Gamble, and Walmart each have long-term commitments to 100% powered by renewable energy. These leading global companies, two of which we have here today in AT&T and Deutsche Bank, have become far more active energy consumers. The progress of these leading companies highlights the untapped business opportunity for the rest of the world's companies. Less than 1/3 of the companies between the Fortune 250 to the Fortune 500 have an energy performance related target. The goal of this paper is to present clear evidence for the benefits of taking action and provide the direction corporate real estate professionals need to set and achieve the highest goals, practical and profitable for building energy performance. So to this end, the paper presents 11 strategic solutions for next generation energy management and performance, and they fall into 3 categories. The first is organize, or lay the appropriate foundation for pursuing the next step in building energy performance. The second is capitalize, seek out those opportunities that are really emerging today that can create profitable energy management investment that may not have been available yesterday. And finally, optimize, bring the most value out of the other solutions and optimize your whole portfolio. The solutions are intended to build upon the foundation established by a company's pre-existing energy management program and to take the program to the next level. So this is not so much a set of solutions for beginners, but for more advanced. We encourage corporate real estate professionals, if they're not doing this already, to engage the energy management team with these solutions to implement and take your company to the next level. So I'll turn it back to Craig so we can get back into the rest of our program.
Thanks, Mike. Well, I guess I'd look to Ron and John to ask them a little bit about how their companies set and achieve these higher energy goals.
I'll start. First, we set aspirational goals that were set at the top of the bank. Rocky Mountain Institute was one of our partners when we set the goal of doing a deep retrofit in our corporate headquarters in Frankfurt with the aspiration of achieving a LEED Platinum certification. We wanted to actually create a template of how you would recondition a high-rise office property to really cut the energy and carbon by more than half. And RMI was really helped us template the application process for LEED, but also challenge our engineering teams on what was possible. We also set a second aspirational goal, which was to measure and report on our carbon globally and become carbon neutral in 5 years. Those goals were set in tandem with the Environmental Steering Committee. Amy Levins was on our committee along with a number of other exemplar CEOs around what a bank can do to set a good example in the marketplace. The External Advisory Committee also challenged us around what was achievable, what was business practical, and some of the risks and opportunities to be out in the lead. There's both risks and opportunity to be out front. So once we set those aspirational goals, we formed the Eco Operations Committee. I was responsible for the execution of our goals, which included the energy, carbon, water, waste, and paper reduction programs. We set up environmental accounting systems. We established a centralized utility bill processing to grab data from our buildings. We set up a central lease administration program to audit our lease clauses. We orchestrated data collection around paper and established smart ways of getting at paper. We linked with our travel management systems to audit our business travel. And setting up that environmental accounting system took some time, but it actually created a strong foundation for independent verification audit and external reporting. But I think most importantly, provide continuous feedback performance of the team. When we built out the Eco Operations team, it was important for us to find business leaders who had a passion and willingness to take personal responsibility. And I ran a global Eco Ops working committee that had business leaders that oversaw global sourcing, global communications, project management execution services, the facility engineering function, vendor management, along with outside stakeholders that ran the carbon trading business that were obviously linked to our carbon reduction commitment. And those leaders all took on sustainability as a personal initiative to both promote their own visibility in the bank, but also they had a personal stake in making a difference. I don't want to underestimate the importance of communication. So we set up a internal and external communication framework. Internally, it was a dedicated website we call Passion for the Planet, which was really focused on outreach to employees. We repurposed a lot of the personal tools, whether they were carbon calculators to JCI had a green print scorecard to allow you to sort of reshape your personal choices. We linked that with external events like World Water Day and Earth Hour. We actually created an Earth Week, which is still in place at Deutsche Bank, which gives us a chance to both host discussions around energy and water responsibility, but also to restate what we're doing inside the bank. So communication is important. On the project execution side, we set up a central project management office. We chose to outsource this office. It was most effective. Also felt that it was important to have independent engineers reviewing engineers. So we established an agreement with Arab engineers. They provided our set up our eco project management office. Their job was to standardize the project analytics on the energy and water saving side, and then also work with the individual capital planning functions to make sure that the true eco operation savings were fully understood when the businesses made decisions. Capital control and the control of financing is not to be underestimated, and it happens in different ways. Large chunks of capital are allocated when major projects are identified. Most of these are tied to revenue growth opportunities, like building out new buildings in emerging markets. In our case, India and Hong Kong and Eastern Europe were major markets. And then it also included the spend around operation maintenance services. And those were managed by third-party vendors, companies like JLL, JCI, MW Zanders. We wanted to make sure those companies were interlocked relative to our aspirations in energy and stability reporting, but also reporting and signing up to key performance indicators for improvement. All the time we were in a mode I think it's really important, is listening, responding, and evaluating on ideas. We set up a input site where people could generate ideas, and we disseminated those ideas to key practice leaders with the commitment to feed back to them on whether they had a good idea. And I personally enjoyed the innovation that came from all employees inside the business. When we talked about value to the bank, first I had this aspirational goal to become carbon neutral, but I also had to pay my own way. So one way of doing that was to establish a working budget. And in our case, we had a budget for purchasing carbon offsets, which was established in 2007 at 22 million euros. But I also had to wrap my arms around my book of work, which was the utility expense line item. So, that's essentially the two pots of money I had to work with, which was the regular spend on utility water, which was about 120 million euros, and this carbon reduction budget. And my job was to essentially reduce the cost for carbon neutrality and create real savings. By setting up the Central Project Management Office, we were able to account for these fully and visibly. We generated a tremendous amount of revenue for the bank, which we were able to report back to them. I think a lot of that information is in the public domain. But the bottom line is we used just a fraction of the money required for carbon offsets. It was about 4.3 million euros out of a 22 million budget, and we delivered 49 million euros of fully auditable cost savings to the business. But driving cost savings is not enough. I mean, organizations get interested when you're generating new ideas, especially around products and services. So we were constantly working with the bank around how to develop new financial products. So we took our expertise in eco-accounting, we used it to backstop 2 European funds. One was the European Investment Bank Fund in energy efficiency projects, and the second was the KfW Global Climate Change Fund. So we actually turned our eco-accounting practice into an auditable system to support fund mandates. My experience is that when you use sustainability to innovate around product creation, that you really get the business's interest. And then, last, I think not least, is that if you step out in front as a business leader, as a company leader, it's your job to influence the market through industry partnerships. So publish and share your results. Deutsche Bank's been very active in publishing the opportunity. I was involved with the World Economic Forum report on catalyzing energy efficiency finance. We published a report with Rockefeller Foundation on the size of the energy efficiency retrofit opportunity in North America. And we helped start up some interesting initiatives, including the ULI Greenprint Foundation, which has 1 billion square feet of real estate, investable real estate property, which has committed to doing energy carbon reduction. So those are places where you can take the rest of the industry alongside with you. We always rate our performance against our peers. The question is, how do you rate it? You know, there's some key CSR rating agencies that we use in Europe because they help inform the structuring of sustainability funds. And we always go back to those rating agencies to see how well we're improving. Executives like to see how well they're doing against peers on a broad set of metrics, not just eco-efficiency. You know, keep score. Show that you're actually creating way more value than you cost. Otherwise, it's not a sustainable program. Leave behind the measurement systems that endure way past you. Just become part of business as usual. And you know, and constantly partner. RMI has been a great partner for us. So we're currently partnering with RMI around investment underwriting standards around energy modeling. You know, so seek the counsel of outside experts to make your business better all the time. So in summary, that's kind of the roadmap we went on, and our results speak for themselves. We also use the Green Build program effectively. We basically distributed LEED commercial interior around the globe. Most of our fit outs are gold platinum now, and it's just become business as usual. Our retail portfolio is LEED Gold portfolio certified, although we don't buy the plaque. It just becomes part of the project management delivery system. And those standards of best practices, when you can adopt them and globalize them, help the project teams think more creatively around how to build better.
Hey, thanks, Ron. That's very progressive from Deutsche Bank. John, what can you give us the same kind of insight of how you set and achieve goals at AT&T? I think you might be on mute, John.
Okay. You know, it's kind of funny. Ron and it's fascinating listening to Ron. Ron and I have been doing this for a long time, and I think we both agree that success kind of looks the same for those organizations that actually can make progress in this space, as well as failure to achieve the goals that you set out to do. And it's funny because many of the steps that Ron is talking about are very much the same as what we've gone down the path with here at AT&T. You know, I think it all starts with big organizations, especially the ones that have large enterprises that are national, international in scope. Before you could even make any commitments to what you'll do, you've got to really better understand what it is that you're already consuming, or you know how you're emitting. And so I think a big step is to make sure that you can very credibly track your performance. And so footprinting of your energy space, of your carbon space, of your water space, and others is very critical to being able to make these kinds of goals as you go forward. And once you better understand that, so for example with us, we're centrally processing hundreds of thousands of invoices every single month and extracting that information out. And in many cases we're installing metering that actually has real-time use. Not only green energy use, but certainly you know, traditional grid-based power as well. And we have a very good handle now on exactly how we're emitting carbon, or how we're consuming energy, or how we're consuming water. And then what we do is we go back in, and then once we understand exactly how and where we're using these commodities, then you could go back and you could optimize it by building. And so what we've done is we went out and we actually partnered with companies like RMI, where we can go out and optimize exactly the options that you have available by facility type or by process type. And by doing that, you're able to replicate those successes, if you will, and scale it across the entire enterprise. So it's very important to really identify what those key opportunities are across the country, and really better understand what the financials look like across the country, because or across the world. The financials are never homogeneous, and what you find is, you know, there's a very wide spectrum of rates across the world, certainly across the United States, and also incentives play a big role in being able to roll out these very large programs. So once you actually know all of the opportunities that are sitting there, the next step is to make sure you have accountability in place. And we have a very robust accountability platform with which we have scorecarding that's involved, not only against peers in the industry, but incremental performance against individual properties. You know, let's face it, many of the processes, many of the properties, they weren't built at the same time. They certainly weren't built under the same standards. So it's very important to recognize incremental progress towards a goal that you have overall for the company. And then the next step is to make sure that you've got the opportunities identified, you've got people that are accountable, but now you've got to find the funding sources. And it's very important to kind of work with your accounting teams and your finance teams to make sure that you've got the financial commitments associated with a publicly stated goal as well as an internally stated goal. And so it's really securing the investments and the funding that's necessary for us to be able to make those goals. Then you go ahead and you start saying, okay, well, we're willing to make a long-term visionary type goal, and we'll work against that, and then we measure that progress very effectively with, again, scorecarding type processes that really kind of link back to people's individual performance targets for any given year. And as opposed to having singular folks that are just concentrated on energy, which we of course have, the wider spectrum of individuals that make a difference are the ones that actually perform energy in the daily jobs that they do. And so it's very important to make sure that you've got a wide spectrum of participation with all different levels of folks. I'm very proud to say that over the course of the last 5 years, with an aggressive program in this space, we've actually been able to reduce our energy used per petabyte of data transfer by 64%. So that means for every petabyte of data that we actually use to transfer information across the enterprise, internally and externally, we have reduced that energy by 64%. We have launched close to 20,000 contracted initiatives and reduced our annual operating expenses by $180 million plus per year. So there's been some very serious impacts to the expenses and the amount of energy and water associated with that energy reduction as well. And that's been a noticeable impact not only on our carbon emissions but also our energy footprint in itself. And we've seen a radical change in the water use, and we're very pleased to be leaders in that space as well in terms of water reduction for that part of it that we consume. So it's a very exciting space, but I think the formulas for these successes look all the same. You've got a baseline, evaluate the opportunities, find the funding, and then make public disclosures and incrementally work against it, but make sure that you've got very solid scorecarding of some kind, some dashboarding that you routinely bring into the mix and then hold people accountable for those performances.
John, I had a brief follow-up question to you, and it's in relation to something that Ron mentioned, that Deutsche Bank is actually starting to take some of the things that they're doing on the operations side for energy management and informing revenue aspects, informing some of their products that they're actually delivering to the market. Ron, first of all, is that a fair characterization? And then I'd like to transition to John and get his perspective on if that is something that is happening at AT&T.
Yes, it is. We try to affect the product selection across a wide range of the bank, from transaction services to capital markets formation, to real estate investment strategy, to green fund mandates. So we used our internal experience to help the business look at new products.
You know what I'd offer out there from an AT&T perspective is that, let's face it, the infrastructure needed to create intelligence to perform these kinds of analysis and to continuously monitor this or hold the data is a core enabling technology. And I think that's the piece of it that AT&T concentrates on the most, is making sure that there's a very robust capability to wirelessly or wired streaming of data, the ability to use clouds, big data clouds of information, and making that available to the public marketplace in such a way that they could perform the same thing. We have a whole host of supporting technologies and infrastructures that could actually help our clients along and make sure that they're doing the same kinds of things in terms of collecting this voluminous amount of information and then creating intelligence out of this and kind of taking it from an operational model and then really using it as that enabling technology for our clients to use as well.
Thanks, John. You know, those are all very great insight, and I guess I would ask John, Ron, and Mike what you found in terms of what advice you might give to other companies, larger or small or mid-sized, about why. What are the reasons you should really seek these higher levels of energy performance?
I think first up, eco-efficiency is just a sign of a well-run business. It's a key indicator of resource efficiency. So what your business consumes relative to resources and inputs all affect the cost of products and services. So, you know, focus on eco-operations, environmental accounting of what you use is really important. Ability to product innovate is something that is not to be underestimated. It tends to, you know, that's what business, you know, managers think about is new products and services and revenue. So don't underestimate your ability to inform new product design. Also, the ability to supply chain innovate is, I didn't really highlight that earlier, but companies have lots of choices on who they procure for services, whether it's power or facility management. And if you put the right contract clauses into those agreements, you can shape the marketplace. I know we shaped the high-performance server marketplace with HP because we wanted to build, you know, free cooling data centers that didn't require any cooling in places like New Jersey. So we pushed the product spec, and now it's available in the marketplace. And you know, we have data centers that run incredible PUEs. Our engagement with our service providers, the JLLs, you know, of the world, actually help them build a business, both in hiring new staff, but also help them invest in new products and services for other clients. And we did that all as part of re-procurement, and it didn't cost us anything. It was just we added some additional service requirements. So I don't care if you're a small company and you just want to get a maintenance contract for your rooftop equipment, right? Yeah. You put in those types of O&M activities that you know will retain and protect savings, and just spend some time writing those properly.
You know, I'll follow up real quick with what Ron was saying, and I guess for myself, for those enterprises that really are looking to get in the space and make a notable change in their operation or in the way they address this, I think it's very important to understand that they have to make a serious commitment, right? Small commitments aren't going to get the attention and quite honestly just won't get the kind of support that you need. So it's really important to establish something that's credible and has a magnitude that has an interest. I think the other piece is that it's easy to find ways to reduce energy, reduce carbon footprints, reduce your water use. What's hard is finding the financial opportunities that meet the investment criteria that companies are interested in. Mm-hmm. And it's not that it's hard in that it can't be done, but you can't think of things as homogenous. You've got to find those opportunities and cherry pick the opportunities across the enterprise that deliver the kinds of internal rates of return that allow the finance department to kind of come back and say, hey, do you need more money? Is there more we can invest in that space? And it's not only a financial upside, but it's also the environmental upside from a corporate social responsibility perspective. So it all kind of fits hand in hand. I think the other piece is that before you can even get to the point of making a big commitment, I think in many enterprises, they don't have the foundations of being able to understand how and where they use energy, where they emit carbon, where they're using water. And I think it's critical as a first step to just make that commitment to say, we're going to quantify this information and we're going to look at it in an intelligent way for us to actually be able to take steps forward with it. And I think those are probably the most critical steps.
You know, Ron had mentioned it was important to get buy-in from the top at the beginning. Did you find that similar? I imagine you did at AT&T, to get those senior executives to think this is a top priority.
You know, it really turns into one of these. Again, I would kind of go back to saying, if you make a big commitment,
yeah,
you'll get the attention of the executives in the suite. If it's a small initiative or it's a lot of talk, but you're not really looking for visible improvements, right? Good financial improvements that actually are complementary across the enterprise, then you wouldn't get the support. We made the numbers compelling enough with which we had a lot of support, not only from the corporate suite, but the C-suite, but also from the finance department as well. So I think it's magnitude of commitment.
Great, thanks. Mike, did you have anything to add? Like what you had found in your interviews about what advice you might have for companies?
No, I think what John and Ron have described is great, and I'm going to direct listeners to read the paper or attend our talk at the summit this month.
It's a great answer. Okay. Well, you know, I think we've covered a lot of ground. We've kind of given a little bit of teaser to the paper that will be released later this month. I think this is probably a good place to stop or stop this part of our conversation. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time and joining us today. And to read the complete paper, it will be released October 27th. You can get a copy of this report if you email outreach@rmi.org. In the meantime, we'd be happy to email that to you. Otherwise, look on both CoreNet Global's website and RMI's website on October 27th, and that report will be released then. And Mike and others from RMI will be presenting the findings from this report at our Washington, D.C. summit on October 27th at 11:30. So I want to thank John and Ron and Mike for taking their time to talk a little bit about this initiative, and I'll leave it at that. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day.